Good morning. I think we are live. Everything is looking good here. And I don't know if you can tell, I'm a little congested this morning. I've been pushing back a cold all week and I actually feel really good. But as I've been getting ready this morning, I know I sound congested. So I apologize for that right here in the beginning. But I hope you have your cup of coffee or whatever morning, mid morning, early morning, depending on where you are, you're watching this, whatever beverage that um, you prefer with your coffee chat. If you are new to this, and we're all kind of new, this is the third edition of this morning chat. But if you are new to this, welcome. I am Jonathan, and I am a family therapist. I am an addictions counselor, and I am the one who started the YouTube channel, and also the Facebook private group and page that focuses on adult children who are struggling. And we also a lot of times call it failure to launch, but it really is more than that, right? There's a lot of parents who I interact with who have adult children who aren't necessarily failing to launch, but they're still struggling, right? And sometimes that struggle is in the relationship. It's in the relationship that you have with your adult child. And that's what I want to chat about today. And I say chat, and I know as this builds and we get more people, some people who follow me, they realize to come over here in the morning if they're able to. I know we're going to get more people in here, and I really do want it to be a chat. In fact, I forgot to pull that up. I keep the chat right here. Um, and let me see if I can get that going. Um, and then if someone is chatting or putting something in the comments, then we can chat. We can talk back and forth. So I have this pulled up. If anyone has any questions, any comments as we go along, but this is interactive, right? I am going to take things that you have given me, that you have asked questions about, whether it's right here or after the fact. And that's what guides this discussion, right? In the private Facebook group, which anyone's welcome to join, we just keep it private to make sure the people who are there for the right reasons get in there. Um, in there, it's more of like a talk and a training and that type of stuff, and the interaction happens during the week. But this is just a format to go wherever we want to go, and we can absolutely do that. So bear with me just a second. I am trying to get this. There it is. I got it pulled up. Okay. Um, just trying to get everything online here. But today I want to talk a little bit more about the relational component with your adult child and when that gets strained. We often hear this term called, um, excuse me, um, well, it's estrangement is the term, but I really, so it's this idea of adult children cutting their parents out completely and not talking to them. And that's a real thing, right? That happens. I have parents who talk to me about that all the time. But there's a lot that leads up to a moment like that. Now, for a lot of parents, they're confused. They're like, why did this happen? It seemed like it happened all of a sudden or pretty rapidly. But a lot of times there's a buildup, right? There is a reason. And a lot of parents aren't in that full estrangement, right? And to me, what that term means is there is no contact, right? You're a stranger. They have completely cut off contact, and in those situations, there's not much a parent can do, right? It's a waiting game. You focus on yourself, you focus on what you can do, and hoping for the opportunity in the future that you can be prepared to have a new opening to start building a relationship. And usually that's from scratch at that point. Most parents, what I find is it's not that they've been completely cut out, It's that there is distance, right? There is distance in the relationship. There is a pattern of withdrawal, but it's not complete. And when parents are in that situation, I think it's really important for them to understand uh, some some ways to move forward that are going to give them the best chance. Not a guarantee, but the best chance that um, they can move that relationship forward. So that's what I want to talk about today, and it's yeah, it's something I just see over and over with parents with struggling young adults, right? And the pattern uh, is usually pretty quiet in the beginning, right? It's their conversations become shorter. The young adult or even their teenager or whenever it starts stops bringing things up, and then parents feel like they're walking on eggshells. And then one day you realize, like, hey, we're hardly even talking at all. And then sometimes it just, well, from there it can really spiral, right? That's the pattern that I hear. It's like we're talking less, and then I feel like I'm walking on eggshells, and then it gets to a point where I get a lot of emotion from them, right? Even just being around them, I feel like this tension and this intensity, and it's like we're growing more and more distant. And then parents wonder, like, what's going on in their brain, because uh, whatever they're feeling and thinking doesn't, I don't think it fits reality. It's not how I really see them. It's not how I really want the relationship to be, but something's in their mind. And sometimes they hear that from parents, like, they're getting accused, hear that from their kids. The parents are getting accused, of, well, you're doing this, or you don't care about me, or you're so unloving or harmful, or whatever it is. And the parents are like, wait, where is this coming from? And I'll tell you, in the beginning, a lot of that is directly because of the lack of communication. Uh, when a relationship is becoming more distant, right? There's just not communication in each person's mind. They start to wonder. They start to wonder, like, what's the other person thinking? Why are they doing what they're doing? What's really going on here? Right? And it's natural in our the way our brains work is we're constantly trying to make reason out of things. We're constantly trying to make sense out of things. So when something happens, we always uh, want to know, why is this happening, and we're going to create a story. We're going to create a scenario. We're going to create something in our mind that completes this open gap. Right? I mean, you see this even historically. I don't know if this is a weird point to go to, but like way back in ancient times, like, there'll be an earthquake or there'll be something like that, and you'll hear the story that the people came up with. They didn't understand, why is the earth shaking, or why is a volcano exploding, or something like that, and they'll attribute, something that they can understand. Like, they'll make sense of it. Oh, this is why it's happening. um, and we do that on a daily basis, right? Something happens that we weren't expecting, or we just experienced for the first time, whatever it is. Why did that happen? We create a theory. So in a relationship that has been strained, and it continues to become more tense, more even volatile, and there's more separation, uh, each person is going to make up in their mind why this is happening. And if it's been negative, they're probably going to think, oh, more negativity, right? If it's been a positive, healthy relationship, and then something maybe hurtful or off putting happens, if it's a healthy, connected relationship, usually the reason we're going to make it, we're going to give that person the benefit of the doubt. They're just having a bad day. They're going through something. Everything's going to be okay. Let me be patient with them. Let me be caring with them. And, that's kind of how we approach it. When the relationship has been very difficult, and then something hurtful, unexplained, weird, happens, our story tends to be the negative version, the negative narrative of what's going on. So then, um, so in an adult child, often what they're doing is they're filling in the gaps, but the parent is like one more time being hurtful, one more time not caring about me, one more time trying to control me, and it gets bigger and bigger. Why does that happen? Well, I kind of explained why, but here's the thing: communication, relationship, connection is how we resolve that stuff. In any relationship, we're going to see something differently, right? And even if something hurtful or insensitive happens, when we can talk about it, we can we can make the story right. We can take your narrative and my narrative and we can put them together and we can find the truth of how we feel about each other, the truth of what we care about, how we're seeing the situation and what we're going to do. When you don't have that communication, when you're in a pattern of consistent distancing and withdrawal, everything that happens is going to snowball in the person's mind and in your mind as well. And if there is interaction or where there is limited uh, interaction, that's usually where things are going to blow up, right? Because the narratives are so strong that people come in very defensive. I call it like coming in hot, right? They're coming in with, you don't like me, you hate me, you're trying to control me, you know, whatever's going on in their mind. That's how they have defended themselves, prepared themselves for this interaction. And a lot of times it's blowing up. And when you have two people with two different viewpoints coming together that are really off base and they're being very defensive, it's almost impossible to have a good conversation. So then you have cycle, another cycle of we came together, it was a bad, hurtful, unproductive interaction, and people walk away feeling more and more hurt. And that pattern repeated over and over, more and more distance. Now, that's not exactly how it works with everybody, but that's a big component of what's going on. Misunderstandings, lack of communication, lack of connection, which is the mechanism for repair, right? It's uh, how you make that change, how you do that repair. You have the right tools. You're able to communicate about what's the problem and what do we need to do about it. So that is um, that's some of what I wanted to talk about. Now I'll pause for a moment. If anyone wants to put anything in there, I'm gonna have a sip of my coffee. And again, I apologize for my, I don't know, maybe it's not coming across as much, but I feel very nasular today. Okay. So, yeah, that's a pattern of enabling. And, well, you know, let me jump into this. I want to address, I don't have her name, but someone who watched the other day put comments afterwards. And I tell you, I'm going to read these comments. And if there's something we can talk about, we're going to talk about it. And this is why we're talking about it, because this person put it in the comments and was talking about her son and how there's a lot of withdrawal there, and she's not able to connect, and how she has a son who has estranged himself, but they're still talking, right? She said there's still some time where they're able to interact. So yes, it's a pattern of estrangement, but that's an example of what I'm talking about, right? They still have these opportunities to connect. So let me look at this. She first said that she's enjoying the talks. Thank you. And then she said, my challenge is my adult child lives 90 miles from me and is refusing to meet and talk. He will text short messages occasionally, but refuses to meet in person and certainly refuses to participate in therapy. I'm giving him space and waiting patiently for him to be ready to meet. Okay, so right away, well, first, thank you for for the comment. But right away, what I'm seeing in that is a lot of good approaches to a very difficult situation. And what I mean by that is there is a lot of patience and persistence. I've been talking about that, right? You need to be patient with the process of uh, building back relationship and helping your adult child move forward. It's not just going to be one conversation. It's not just going to be one moment. It's who you show yourself to be over time. So she's being patient. She's being persistent, as in time after time, and giving him space, right? Not being controlling in that moment and, um, giving it the opportunity. But right now, there's not a lot accessible, but it's not a complete estrangement. They're still having some conversation. So that gives me hope, right? That gives me hope for the future that they will be able to talk about things and work things out. So there's another dynamic that she mentioned in her comments, and she was talking about her the father. I believe it was husband, but the father was an enabler. Now, she doesn't go into detail about what that enabling, how it takes place, but I want to talk about that because enabling and estrangement are, in that process of withdrawal, are actually connected. And I want people to understand and to think about that. And so, if there's an enabler involved in the situation, it can actually obviously make it more difficult, but can push things, make them last longer, make them more difficult, make them more complicated. So let me talk about enabling real quick. Enabling is basically defined as doing something for your child or for someone else, but in this case, your child, right? That they can either do for themselves or they can learn to do for themselves. And the way you are either preventing them from doing it or doing it for them, right? The way you're doing it is a pattern that is holding them back, meaning they're not learning, they're not growing. Right? You're basically sheltering them from something, usually a responsibility or a situation, right? That is not allowing them to grow. It's not allowing them to learn. It's not allowing them to face what they need to face. And the important distinction there is, of course, there's times we do things for our kids, but it can't be a consistent pattern that's preventing them from learning how to do it themselves. That is enabling. What we want is for them to grow and to experience. So, on one hand, enabling seems very loving. It seems very caring. Like, hey, I'm, because parents are well-meaning. They're trying to protect their kid. They're trying to help their kid. They don't want them to hurt. They don't want them to struggle. Many times parents will tell me like, oh, I do all this for them so that they have all this room in their lives to grow and explore and to. I'm like, no, the growing and exploring and yeah, moving forward is dealing with their responsibilities, learning how to manage a life that has that is based in reality, right? Is like you've got to learn to handle the difficult things while you're trying to move forward. Um, it's a long conversation, right? I don't want to get lost in that right now, but what a lot of parents uh, don't realize is that enabling uh, really impacts the relationship, right? On a couple of levels. And uh, maybe I can explain this. I can't explain it. Here's how we explain it. In a relationship with a child, right? They've got to learn, they've got to grow. When parents are enabling, when they're taking that burden on At first, that can feel really good. It can feel very loving, but eventually it starts conveying a couple of messages. One of them is, uh, I think you're kind of weak and fragile. Now, that's not how it comes across at first, but it's like every time they're experiencing something, like, no, no, I'm going to take care of that, right? That's basically it's saying, like, that's too much for you, right? It's okay to avoid, it's okay not to deal with that situation. And over time, that starts to feel like I'm not being trusted. Like the adult child's like, I'm not being trusted. I'm not, um, they don't think I can handle this. And also, they start to doubt that within themselves, right? Like, maybe this is too much, right? So that's one of the things that over time, their self-esteem starts to diminish, but then they see their parents taking more and more control over their lives, and then they can become resentful over that. So what started out as loving starts to feel controlling, and uh, yeah, and the fixing aspect of it is what a lot of parents are focused on. I want to fix this for you, but then the kids are like, I need to learn how to fix things for myself, right? And sometimes they can become rebellious, resentful that parents are always jumping in, or other times they become, excuse me, overly dependent. And it's kind of like a helpless state, and they just allow the parents to keep doing that for them. Also, it can be very just controlling, and what happens in that dynamic is that's where a child is starting to share what's going on in their lives, and the parents are always jumping in. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to handle it. Right. And it becomes, it might be well meant at the beginning, but then it starts to feel controlling. It feels like you're going to overreact. Or that's another piece of it is they're going to overreact every time I share something about my life and then step in and be controlling or tell me what to do. All of these things start a pattern of this is difficult to talk about, right? This is difficult to relate to you. This is difficult to connect to you. And I could probably give a better example if I think about it. Maybe I'll do a follow up video on this where it's a little bit more planned out. But over time, the the conversations become more and more shallow. They become more and more difficult, right? And enabling has a lot to do with that. Uh, yeah. So I'm going to pull away from that point, and I want to keep this conversation going because there's another point I want to make, and then I'll open it up if anyone has any other thoughts. Uh, when there is distance in the relationship, like I just lined up or explained, right? The distance in the relationship, the negative narratives that are going through everyone's head about uh, who the other person is and why we're struggling, and it just creates this distance. It creates this withdrawal. One of the things that needs to happen to repair the relationship is to uh, is to get back to connection, right? Is to figure out how to connect again so that we can talk. If we can't talk, we can't work through things, right? So we need to feel connected. And what do I mean by connected? That this person cares about me, they love me, and even though we're having a tough time, even though this stuff has happened in the past, they really want to repair things. They really do care about me, and we want to move forward. And you start connecting, right? It's about care. We care about each other. We love each other. We getting to back to that place, right? You need that connection. But here's the big point. Why? Right? Why are they withdrawing? Why is that disconnection happening or has happened? You've got to understand that. And that's why you need to get connected to be able to understand what's going on. How do you see me as a parent? Right? Why don't you like me? Why are you hurt by me? And that's a tough conversation that I find a lot of parents, they say, "Oh yeah, I'm ready for that. I want to know. I want to know." But as soon as their child starts telling them, like, well, you do this and you did this and this happened, parents can get really defensive, right? And they can push back and they say, no, that's not right. That's not correct. That's not how it happened. Well, what about this? What about when you did this? Right? And then it becomes just another version of the same argument and pattern of disconnection they had before. So if you want to get connected with your kid, uh, you've got to learn a very important principle. Just because you listen to understand them doesn't mean you agree with them. And that goes with anybody, right? I can sit and understand how you think and why you see the world the way you see it without uh, agreeing that that's absolute fact or that's how I see it, right? You need to be in that place of understanding because the facts are kind of irrelevant in that moment. The real fact is you need to build a relationship. You need to get reconnected with them. And if they're seeing you in an unhealthy way, uh, either there probably is some truth to it, right? And you need to look at yourself and say, okay, what is true in this? What can I own that I can change, that I can apologize for, that I can process with them and acknowledge, okay, this was my part in it. And then the things that are inaccurate, misunderstandings, you want to be able to clear those up, right? So if you can't listen and understand, you're not going to get to that point of being able to hear so that you can make your changes and also help work out the misunderstandings with your child, maybe address some of their behaviors too, because we all want to be heard, right? We all want to be understood. And if you are not being understood, you don't want to, if someone's not really trying to listen to you and doesn't care what you're saying and is only going to refute everything you say, they're not going to listen to you, right? You're not going to listen to them, all right? Anyone in that situation. So it's a very important skill uh, to get to why. What's going on? Why do you feel this way? Why do you see things this way? Now, here's the other part. When enabling is part of what's going on, it can make it difficult to get to the why, especially so like in the scenario that the person shared in the comment I shared a moment ago, where they were talking about the father being an enabler. I don't know how it was enabling. Most of the time we think of enabling as like finances or fixing problems and doing things like that. But there's another type of enabling, which is emotionally enabling, or it's enabling them to escape or not deal with emotions. Right. And what are the emotions, right? The emotions come from dealing with difficult situations and um, the difficult emotions that come with those situations. So it's not just taking care of their cell phone bill or their rent one more month. It's preventing them from facing the distress of the choices that they've made. Maybe not to have balanced their budget as well or manage their finances, right? When we swoop in and fix their problems around maybe a difficult person that they don't want to confront uh, about something. So we're going to jump in and we're going to do that for them. We're preventing them from learning that situation, how to handle that type of interaction, but also the emotions, right? They're not feeling the tension in that moment. They're not feeling the insecurities in that moment. They're not feeling whatever it is, the anger, the sadness, the whatever it is. And so you have a pattern of someone who doesn't know how to handle big emotions, especially negative emotions, negative situations. And uh, the way that that plays out is they don't know how to have difficult conversations. They don't know how to push through. So, in a situation like what was described before, that might be a very big component of it, right? You want to try to have a conversation with a young adult who doesn't know how to have challenging conversations. They just want to avoid it, right? They've never had that moment, or rarely had that moment, of sitting down with someone and thinking about, what am I feeling? What is this other person feeling? This is very uncomfortable. There's a lot of tension. There's a lot of emotion here, but this needs to be worked through. This needs to be talked through, right? So they run, or they see it as really, really bad, something to be avoided at all cost. And so that's one of the patterns that I see as well. So that enabling, that emotional enabling, is a real thing. It's a real factor. So if you are in that situation where your child is avoiding, right, avoiding talking, it's it's something that you have to often go very slowly and um, kind of spell out, like, hey, this is a difficult conversation. I know there's a lot of emotions here, but I'm willing to work through these with you. I'm really willing to talk through this with you. Uh, so, like I said, there are so many different scenarios and situations when it comes to children and adult children that are withdrawing. They are pulling away, right? But the core of what I'm talking about is focusing on your connection, and you know conveying that you love them, you care about them, and no matter what's happened in the past, you're willing to push forward, and that you're willing to have those conversations to understand why they feel the way they feel. And again, that doesn't mean their reality is fact, but that's not the point. You want to listen to them to understand why they feel the way they feel, why they think the way they think, and you want them to feel heard, right? Because that's your path of understanding. If you don't understand where they're coming from, you're not going to know the change that you need to make, and you're not going to be able to push the conversation forward to address what needs to be corrected or worked out. So that is very crucial in those. And for those of you who are in a situation where you're just in the middle of that patience and that persistence, right? Continually showing that you are there for them, that you care about them, that you're not going away, that you love them. And that is what, um, sometimes can take a long time, but it's worth it. All right. I'm going to have another sip of my coffee. And thank you so much for joining. I know we've got some people who are watching now. Clearly, more people were watching afterwards. So when you're watching afterwards, thank you for watching this. If there are any chats, any comments, any questions now or later, put them in there. That's what I did today. I read one yesterday. I thought it was great, and it drove the conversation. This is just a chat. It's just a time to connect in the morning and talk. 10:30 to 11:30 ish, or till we run out of steam, is what we're doing. But I'm very happy that you guys are here. If anyone has popped in recently and you don't know, my name is Jonathan. I am a family therapist, addictions counselor. I have it there in the bottom of the screen. And I have my own private practice. I've been working for decades, like literal decades, but as a family therapist, primarily working with families with uh, children, teens, and young adults who are struggling. Many times, that's why families have come to me, is because their child is struggling, the relationship is struggling, something is going on like that. And my focus has always been uh, so much of the healing, so much of the path forward is done in the relationships, is done in the families. Building up families to know how to come together instead of push apart, pull apart, come together, connect, and learn how to support each other and help each other to solve whatever they're going through, right? And I really, really believe in that. I think a lot of approaches are very behavioral, and extreme and limited, right? It's all about let's change this behavior, and comes across as controlling, right? How do we make this person change their behavior? How do we make them get into a better way of interacting with us, or whatever it is? And yes, you want to see that change, but you can't control people. And a lot of the messages out there right now that I see are a lot about, they call it boundaries, but really it's ultimatums, it's control, it's like, how do we put these limits in place that are going to make this person come around. There is absolutely a need for limit, and I am very, very big on boundaries, but I understand boundaries in a different light, right? It's which I believe is the correct light. It's the If you go back to the origins of boundary work and understanding what it is, which comes out of uh, family family therapy, uh, relational therapies, and such, is a very healthy and clear understanding of a person, right? Of what it means to be a person, a family member in a relationship, but just as a human being, right? That you have a life, right? You have a life, and uh, your life has certain things that you own, certain things that you control, right? Your responsibilities, your directions, the choices you make, how you feel about yourself, and uh, yeah, building yourself up and learning and growing. These are things within your control. This is your life, and it's kind of like your boundary, right? Your marker, your boundary line around you that says, "Hey, this is yours. This is what you control." And in a relationship and in a family, this is your responsibility. And when everyone is clear on what is their life, their space, right? Their place, their role, when they can have conversations and communications about, yeah, this is what you need to be doing, and this is what I need to be doing. And when they have those conversations, they make those lines clear, because they're constantly getting muddled. That always is happening in families, especially as families grow and develop and life changes. You have to regularly have those conversations about, okay, what do I control now? What is my role now that things have changed? So for a parent child, like, oh yeah, now it's not my job to get you places. That's your job, right? It's not my job to remind you to get up in the morning anymore. That's your job. It's your responsibility, and on and on and on. And like I was talking about emotionally, right? Like, hey, you're old enough now. You need to have this conversation, this difficult conversation. You need to work through this difficult emotion. You need to face this reality. When families can communicate, they can redefine those boundaries, those sense of self and personhood. And when relationships have very clear understanding of what they control, what they don't control, what they're responsible for, what they're not responsible for, that's healthy. That's very healthy. And when you're communicating well and you know those responsibilities, here's the beautiful thing in a relationship and a family: support, right? Encouragement, uh, being able to um, be there for the other person, right? I see what you need to be doing in your life, and I'm going to cheer you on. I'm going to help you. Maybe I'm going to share my wisdom with you. I'm not going to take it over for you, but I'm going to be there. I'm going to be encouraging you. I'm going to be supporting you in whatever way I can. And so when you have relationships where people are connected, they're very clear on who owns what, who's responsible for what, and then they know how to support each other and encourage each other and guide each other. That's very healthy. When that gets out of balance, that's where we start to have problems. So that's a lot of the kind of the foundation of how I try to help people is, let's get focused on defining those boundaries, how we can support each other, And when that can be aligned, when people get connected and clear on those things and are in a supportive way, so many things. Uh, I really believe in the power of family and relationships. They many times heal themselves at that point. So, okay, that has been a long talk, and I have been talking a whole bunch. And I promise you, my goal is to be more interactive. I guess I got on a roll today talking about some of those things. Perhaps as you're watching this, that is confusing, did not make sense, or maybe it made perfect sense. Either way, I'd love to hear what you think. If there's something that you want to know more about, if there's something um, that you want to, well, you just have questions about, let me know. Put it in the comments, and I welcome that. So, this has been our coffee chat. And I'm excited. This is the first week we're doing it. We're going to be doing this at roughly 10:30 on Eastern time in the morning during the weekdays. So I will be back on Monday, and I'm looking forward to it. So you guys take care. You have a great weekend, and I look forward to talking to all of you in the future. And real quick, as I'm signing off, I just want to double check something I've learned with the chats and comments is uh, they don't always come in. I don't know. It doesn't always show them to me as quickly. I don't know why that is, because sometimes I'll miss a comment because I'll sign off and then it pops up later. But I don't think there was any right now. Thank you for being here. I hope you have a great weekend. Um, in the meantime, if you want, on my YouTube channel, there is a whole library of talks and videos and playlists. And I need to clean those playlists up a little bit more. But uh, there's a lot of great information regarding adult children who are struggling and parents and failure to launch, estrangement, those kind of topics that are really helpful. And if you want to get really involved, two things. You can join the Facebook group, Facebook group, Parents of Adult Children Failure to Launch. It's a private group, but I will let you in if you're there for the right reasons, which is you are a parent who wants to learn and connect and grow. Keep all the spammers out. And the other thing is get on my email list. That is I'm going to send you some tools and some information you need, and also any announcements of anything we're doing, such as the private coaching group that is going to be available for parents who want to really get involved. That will be there as well. So, all right. Well, I didn't finish my coffee. I'll finish that afterwards. Hey, you guys have a wonderful day and weekend, and I will see you on Monday.